And gents, if you're new to my live stream, you're welcome to the blah blah blah. Welcome to the world's most boring live stream where I sit here, work on some project, ignore the world, and listen to like audio fan fiction right now. That's kind of my jam. Working on these little guys. These are little tentacles. They go in your flower pot. So your little flower pots or your little plants have like limbs to wave at you when they go by and little eyeballs and all that stuff. Yeah, so I got their stripe. I need to touch it up and then start putting some dots on. The cat is around my goddamn ankles. Jesus, boy, I just fed you. Come here. Alright, live stream just started. Now I have to go feed the cat or else I'm not going to get a goddamn thing. I'm sorry. One day I'll be competent, but today is still not that day. Come here, you little asshole. Come here. Oh my god, I hate you. Goddamn thing, you're cute. Anyway, yes. Now, can I get back to work, please? Oh my god. Okay. Got it. You're like a toddler. There. There we go. Right. Ah! We're good. Oh. Right. Yes, welcome to the world's most boring live stream. Glad you made it. Sorry you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to get through this thing called life. No, what is it? Dearly beloved. Like a funeral procession. That's a bad idea. Splashing water on electronics? Let's not do that again. Aw. Oh, that's not what I wanted. That's what I needed. I'm still obsessed with the nature of predators. Common sense, though, just doesn't work for me on that one. I have to put the common sense to the side, or else I think about it too much. I don't like it. Shit. Alright, we'll see how that works. There it is.
It's time to be Genres Records 2023 Top Picks.
Memory transcription subject. Governatava of the Vendome Republic. Date. Standard Irish Human Time. October 3rd, 2136. In half a day, our ship had reached the edge of Republic space and would be able to transmit communications back to our UN contact. The Terrans had been slated to open an embassy on Venlo Prime a few days after our original departure. That meant they would have a full diplomatic staff on world and would be available to help humans abroad. Many Terran nations requested their own embassies so they could conduct their affairs as separate entities. While I liked the Predators, I wasn't giving out an absurd 198 embassies versus every other species singular site. Humans were welcome to bicker amongst themselves about who could send their own diplomatic corps and how to divide the turf if they must. I had no interest in making their discordance my business. My focus was on smoothing over both our relations with the Federation. It was also a priority to stabilize my friends' mental health, especially after weeks of isolation and boredom. Learning how the human mind coped with stress would be useful down the road. After careful consideration of the astronauts' mannerisms, I decided there was no major cause for alarm. All of our research showed that humans were highly social creatures. Ambassador Noah perked up just from having new conversation partners at hand. A few days to unwind in the company of his own people, and he'd be begging to get back into the field. He only needed to recharge his batteries, as the Terran said. Noah's excelled in quite an uncomfortable position, volunteering with the belief that he would be a martyr, standing in as a representative for his whole species. That kind of pressure has to pile up.
In conclusion, the International Space Station proved that humanity can cooperate in the stars.
The Predator was finishing a story I'd heard before. We had a rapt audience in our magic passenger.
That scientists see our beautiful Earth differently from above. The ISS was our first foothold off-world. It paved the path for lunar colonies and set a precedent of joint exploration.
So then, why has your planet still not united under a single banner, Noah? You do not care for distant members of your species without, shall I say, stellar view?
Came the scoffing response. When President Kupo's question reached my ears, I was concerned that other diplomats would voice similar concerns. The Magic still seemed leery of the human, despite being thrice the weight of the Predator. No offense to Noah, but I'm pretty sure the beige cranimal could knock him out with a stamp of his flat paw easily. Humanity's internal divisions were a disquieting issue to the galaxy as a whole. The newcomers seemed to be trying to work up the courage to ask about it for days. With the external threat of protection in our formative units, Christ species had to maintain unity. It was all bread and food spread, so to speak. Dodging in petty squabbles would have gotten us killed. I'd seen several exit interviews with various leaders before we left signal range of Arthur. Many dissenters cited Earth's disputes as proof that the Predators were incapable of cooperation. It was their main evidence that the primates were still warlike and disagreeable.
Humans are often a lot of small tribes which later became nation states. These each have their own distinct culture, beliefs, music, stories, cuisine and language.
The Terran ambassador replied, leaning back in his seat.
It would be losing a part of our heritage to renounce that. And because of our differing viewpoints, we don't always agree on how things should be done.
Kupo flared his tongue.
Why can you not maintain your practices under a common entity? You claim freedom of beliefs are a core value.
It would be like you unifying with the Navot. You may like each other plenty, perhaps you are even allies, but you would not abide by the same jurisdiction. We have common forums, alliances and trade agreements. So Nicodus was quite mistaken in thinking we do not speak the language of diplomacy. We work together when it matters.
It didn't escape my notice that Tosser, the Nivok representative, was watching with interest. The Sivkit, Zerulian and yacht occupants were also observing the exchange.
I feel like I've heard this.
Being subtle with how their ears swivel toward the Predator. The other Federation diplomats had flown with Russell in a separate ship, too daunted to embark on a human-infested vessel. One bold enough to voice what they are all thinking. Now the floodgates are open, I thought. I'd better be ready to intervene if Noah gets overwhelmed.
Hand it to Noah. Please forgive my impertinence.
Mallow, the Yotel diplomat, spoke in a measured tone. The uplift had given the human a wide berth, but at least was able to meet his startling gaze.
Do you humans still find cause when you, disagree?
Sometimes. One always hopes those quarrels can be resolved with words. But rest assured, a common thread like the answer should place any of our lingering disputes on the back burner.
The Federation representatives looked baffled by that answer. As I learned early on, the National Affairs of Earth were
Oh, you dumbass. It's 39 to 60. Fuck! Or whatever it is. 31 to 60. That's why it sounds familiar. I've already fucking God damn it. You said the bunch was coming out. Nah, shoot. I'll listen to it anyway.
It was imprudent to deal with any nation individually, since that could be construed as favoritism. Most of the humans' rhetoric was posthumous, but they were always locked in jealous competition. It was strange how human tribes perceived their interests as separate. They had much more in common than divided them, and they even seemed to recognize their folly when asked, which was one of the several areas I pointed out to renowned neuroscientist Dilger for closer study.
I suspect the human's temper can run much hotter and much quicker than ours.
Johnson offered in a matter of fact tone.
None of my research suggests their end goal is loss of life. It's just the result of aggression. Their predatory inclination is to deal with a perceived threat through violence rather than flee.
Not fully accurate, Doc. Humans have a fight or flight response.
Noah growled.
We can panic or freeze just like you. It varies from person to person and what temperament we have. Some of us are wholly incapable of aggression.
A contemplative silence fell over our entourage, and Charles scribbled something in his sketchbook. But that last tidbit was news to me too. I assumed aggression was part of every predator's natural makeup, since that ferocity facilitated their ancestors' survival. Were they really so as timid and anxious as us? That coward at sets like Van Mill? If so, it was obvious Nova was not one of those humans. And while the ambassador was skilled at masking his emotions, hostility seemed to do whenever he saw that Van Mill threatened. Its source was almost paternal. The look in his eyes at first contact when he watched the Grace tormenting our pups was apoplectic. Lots of compassionate humans were angry when they saw those videos. I wish we were home so the Federation could meet the volunteer doctors and aid workers. It's been to a rattling noise hummed through the ship walls, jolting me out of my thoughts. This time, it was more insistent than its previous occurrences throughout the journey. There was no reason a ship which deployed a year ago should experience issues, but it roused some worries nonetheless.
Hey, Taba, you're not just out of panic, but is that grating sound normal?
Lieutenant Ambassador asked. Something felt off with the shuttle since it took flight. The predators and ladies validated my suspicions. I was inclined to propose further investigation, even though we were one territory away from home. The last thing we needed was to be stranded in space with a bunch of diplomats and an inoperable ship. I tilted my head. No, it's not. I'm going to run a ship diagnostic just to be safe. Marlowe raised a peach-colored paw.
It's coming from the current shaft. We should take a look there.
As if you know.
Jossa scoffed.
I'd hardly trust your elk to fix a sailboat. The
printing presses are novelty to you primitives.
Were your ancestors born with spaceships?
Noah Glow-Editor, the Nivok Crows and his ocular intensity.
I didn't know we were graced by the peasants of a species who were endowed with divine knowledge.
Tossa quivered, her icy fur raising along her hackles.
We found our way on our own. We didn't have everything handed to us.
The Yoto would have learnt on their own with time. You interfered in their natural development so that they could join your war.
Are you deaf, Predator? The actor don't give a green's talk about natural development.
I'd leave it to you with your insensitive and tone-deaf comments. How the fuck did you become a diplomat?
Waldo looked aghast at the Predator's vehement defense of his species. I think he assumed that the ambassador didn't know the Atoll's origins, but it was obvious the human had done his homework. The marsupial was likely surprised that the Terran would side with him, especially when he was accustomed to verbal beatdowns from fellow diplomats. It was apparent that Noah had lost all patience with the vitriolic rhetoric toward the Uplift. Tossa's condescension, singling out the autolative return, rubbed my friend the wrong way. However noble his outburst, the last thing we needed was for him to alienate an influential ally. The Nivox could be a crucial supplier of resources and ship paths to Earth. Actually, the Sivkid representative was sobbing from the primate's raised voice. She had yet to speak a word to Noah, only introducing herself to the rest of us while he was asleep. A shouting match wasn't the way to calm her nerves either. Stop it, both of you, I hissed. Every second we spend bickering without some win. Let's be respectful to each other, all right? The human drew a shuddering breath.
My apologies, Governor. I'm not the type to stand idle while someone else is mocked and bullied.
It's not mockery, Predator. I'm merely stating facts.
Tossa said.
My name is not Predator. It's Noah. Ambassador Williams. If that's too fucking difficult, I'll settle for human.
Sorry about that.
Longlaw mutters. The human snorted.
You're fine. At least you used my name.
The Nivok curled her lip.
Predator is just a word, which does describe you. You're too defensive.
Noah.
So you can pronounce it. Fascinating.
Despite my best efforts, the two of them were still at each other's throats. Whoever managed terror relations with the Nivok Imperium, it couldn't involve Noah in any way. The human was so incensed by his counterpart's attitude that he hadn't noticed actually balling up into a fetal position. I believed he would have backed down if he realized the fright his ire had caused. Not another word. I swished my tail in frustration. Noah, you're coming with me alone, and that's not up for discussion. I'm going to run a diagnostic, and we'll see if Wallo's intuition is correct. The Terran ambassador opened his mouth to argue, but then followed my pupils toward the sniveling Sivkid. His expression softened, replaced by a worried furrow of his brow. That agitation might have undone any progress with the Mazik too. President Kupo had inched away from the human and was trying to comfort Axley with soothing words. The timid female was unresponsive, rocking back and forth. At least I was a brilliant friend seemed to enjoy that, I mused. Jordan was trying to be the ship's stenographer during that whole exchange. Noah lowered his gears and strode over to me with dejection. The Predator vished a glance over his shoulder, making eye contact with the Lauro. The marsupial mouthed his gratitude and the Terran's posture relaxed. He gave the Ortella a slight nod of acknowledgement before shuffling into the cockpit. I hovered by the ship computer pulling up the troubleshooting module. It would take several seconds to complete a cursory scan which would give Noah's temper time to blow over. I hoped that nothing was amiss with the vessel. The implications of a defect would be unpleasant.
I didn't scare you, did I, Tava?
Noah murmured. I snorted. No. I'm just trying to stop Earth's foreign relations from imploding on week one. For the sake of argument, let's say you piss off the Nivox. The Federation will parade them around, using them as proof that you can't be allies with humanity.
And then we lose the undecided votes.
Exactly. There is too much at stake. For all of us. A soft beep indicated that the diagnostic was complete, and we returned our attention to the computer. A holographic avatar of the shuttle zoomed into the ship's underbelly. It highlighted a long pipe in blinking red. An auto-generated note indicated that cooling fluid was leaking. The shaft was nestled right next to the warp drive, so it didn't take an engineer to figure its purpose. That part of the ship was only accessible from the exterior. Fixing it would require a spacewalk. My immediate suspicion was that someone had tampered with the vessel, mainly because the pipe leaked just enough that it wouldn't cause immediate alarm, or break down in range of the Kolshin surveillance team. But who would have sabotaged us? What was their motive?
So it was the cooling system.
The human said calmly.
Stop the ship. I'll get a vac suit and try to patch her up.
I flicked my ears. No. You need to stay here and keep an eye on everyone.
Why?
I suspect foul play. Deliberate damage. If it's one of the species on board, they could be trying to lure you off the ship. That way, they can check us all out without having to fight a predator. Noah squinted in confusion. It was refreshing that the ambassador didn't panic at the first hint of danger. His reaction was cool and calculating. The human lacked a full understanding of the situation, and I suspected he disliked the uncertainty more than the peril.
That makes zero sense. Who would do such a thing?
I don't know. That's what I want to find out. If our vessel went missing in no man's land with all of humanity's allies on board, you know who would foot the blame. He frowned.
Always me, isn't it?
I flicked my ears in acknowledgement. Noah shook his head in disgust. Unfortunately, humanity had no shortage of enemies within the Federation. The team was needed to talk it over and wipe out anyone who could have a possible angle. Ruling out the 5 species on board was our top priority, since they would be an immediate threat. Of course, it could be someone on Russel's ship. I wonder if they run into any trouble, or if this was only targeted at the human, I thought. I don't know where to start. I slammed a paw on the console, stressed at the prospect of ship-wide interrogation. There could be any number of parties involved. Someone inside or outside our group. An ally or an enemy. How do we even begin to narrow the field?
Let's start with who we think it couldn't be.
Noah groaned.
Can we clear anyone on this ship? Someone we can account for, or are almost certain they're fine.
I trust Chosen.
Really? I don't know about him.
He's never been unkind to you, which is saying a lot.
That's exactly why he's suspicious, Talbot. He's too nice. What if he's up to something?
The Zeranians were the only ones to reach out before the vote. Also, as you know, we do an awful job of controlling our instincts. Chosen couldn't fake not being afraid of a predator. He glanced up to you while his head was dripping blood. The ambassador tapped his foot a few times and a touch of relief flickered in his brown eyes. It saddened me the mistreatment was so commonplace with him that normal interaction triggered alarm bells in his head. The Cerulean scientist was the only person I'd seen attempt to squash his instincts in his first meeting with a human. If we trusted Chosen, bringing him into the loop might not be the worst idea. 3 minds were better than 2, and he was intelligent enough not to jump to conclusions. Besides, someone needed to mend the cooling shaft damage. I would volunteer, except that with my technical know-how, I was more likely to make the warp core spontaneously combust. The fewer people know the true reason for our predicament, the better. Let's hope Chosen can keep his mouth shut when asked. Sharing my suspicions with the entire ship would only incite panic and lead to infighting and accusations. Knowing how paranoid some species were about predators, they would find a way to blame Noah, because obviously the nefarious human would cripple his ride home after weeks of imprisonment for some illusory goal. It made perfect sense. If you didn't think about it. I sighed. Do not tell anyone anything, other than that we're fixing a minor problem. I'm going to fetch Chosen. The human nodded. If anyone could sniff out deceit, he would be an observant predator like Noah. One way or another, we were going to get to the bottom of this debacle. I suppose it was too much to ask for these introductions to be smooth sailing, and for Earth to attain some genuine allies without any hiccups. When I ascertained the responsible party, they were going to receive some harsh retribution, courtesy of the Human Pendlil Alliance. Memory transcription subject. Governor Tarver of the Vendel Republic. Date, standardized human time, October 4th, 2136. The shuttle halted a few parsecs short of Vendel space until the necessary repairs were complete. This delayed 10 hours to our travel time, but none of the other options were reasonable. If the drive overheated, the ensuing explosion would bring about our swift demise. I wondered how the passengers reacted to our standstill, and my refusal to explain any details. Chosen hadn't taken any convincing to come to our aid, even after he processed the murky truth. He was pacing back and forth now, pink tongue warming out of his mouth. With his quadrupedal stature, the Cerulean barely surpassed the human's knee. Noah was biting his lip, and I assumed the predator was holding back a reaction to the adorable scientist. Now was not the time to divulge our wrinkle to our new friend, especially when that furry guy was the potential ally we were most optimistic about. I sorted through the shared-conforming vac suits, picking out one design for small quadrupeds. Strong magnets fixed a standardized toolbox to one sleeve. Serving on a few science specials preferred Chosen for basic repairs. Thanks again for helping us. Do you think this is something you can handle? I asked.
I'll do my best, Tarver.
The Cerulean wiggled into the suits, baring his teeth in discomfort. The fabric must feel restricting in all the wrong places.
We only need to hold together long enough to get a few parsecs. Let's just try to minimize the stress on the warp drive.
Slow and steady, I confirmed. And remember, this is our secret. We don't want anyone else getting wind of it.
You really think it's someone here? Why would they damage a ship they're on with a,
Noah rolled his arboreal eyes.
Predator. It's okay, you can say it.
Jordan winced.
Yeah? I don't see the logic of that plan.
If everyone were logical, this all would have been much easier, I responded. It's just a possibility for now. Honestly, it's more likely that it's someone outside this group, but some people would sacrifice themselves in a heartbeat to fight flesh-eating monstrosities.
I can feel the love.
The human growled.
You'd be better off to seek respect rather than love.
Joseph struggled with his headgear, fumbling with the clip.
Love can be quite the fleeting emotion, you know.
The quadruped flicked his ears with annoyance, and Noah helped him click the helmet into place. Those opposable thumbs were more useful than most species' toes and claws. I was impressed by how fast the Terran picked up on Elliot non-verbal cues, given how little he had actually been told. The Zeridian gave the tether on his chest a final tug, ensuring it was fastened. He shivered into the crawl space, and there was a click as the emergency ammo concealed. Left alone with me, Noah's composition dissolved. A smile tugged at his lips, and he allowed a fawning look into his gears.
Oh, seeing Chorson dressed up in a spacesuit with those little teddy bear ears. Talva, my heart feels real fuzzy.
The ambassador declared. Amusement fled within my sternum. No clue what a teddy bear is. I guess then we'll aren't cute to you anymore if we've been replaced so easily.
Don't go getting all jealous on me now. A man not allowed to think the entire galaxy is cute.
You think the Arcs are cute?
Damn you. You know that wasn't what I meant.
You said the entire...
I know what I said. And honestly, maybe baby arcs are cute. We think pretty much any youngling is cute. Even the mean or ugly ones.
You've got to be shitting me. You're really doubling down on that.
I am. What are you going to do about it?
A chuckle thrilled from my chest, picturing the penitent growing of baby reptilians. But I would be stretching their nurturing instincts a little too far for my liking. Humans' fierce protectiveness of their offspring was something I noticed in their earliest transmissions. It would be interesting to meet a little primate. Despite their eyes, their innocence and enthusiasm looked endearing. It's wonderful that Noah and I's friendship is so easygoing and that we can mess around now. He would have apologized for the implication before this trip, instead of recognizing that I was kidding. I gave the human a playful headbutt. I'm going to make us focus on potential culprits. We need to go over the list of species on board pronto.
The color's not going to work very well.
Most of them.
Well,
Maybe all of them.
Fine.
Noah's grin dissolved and the teasing out leapt from his intonation.
Let's start with a Mazik. Even as a reluctant ally, I doubt you'll ever like me.
It was tough to reconcile President Trupo's ridicule during Noah's speech with the potential of friendship. The human had attempted to push any past incident off, fielding his critical questions in our voyage with aplomb. At least the Mazik was touching on genuine topics and listening to the given responses. Still, mistrust flowed from Pupo at every turn. He stated himself that his vote stemmed from the Federation's desperation against the Arxer alone. There was little more dangerous than a man with nothing left to lose. Not to mention that Noah's first thought was that the President was only partaking in this foray to stir up trouble. The Maziks would be my prime suspect, if it weren't for the fact that their figurehead was present in the flash. Surely a planetary leader would send a stand-in to carry out deviant plans. Why would he cause disruption to his planet's governance other than as a show of good faith? Kupo came himself, I replied. It would be like me going on a suicide mission. I wouldn't be the first candidate the Venlo proposed.
Leadership is important, I suppose. That isn't the full exoneration. All right. What about the Nivox?
She was just picking the ones you don't like first.
So what if I am?
The Nivok representative put on quite the performance for the Predator, perhaps with the belief that playing up to her derision would impress him. Tosser's haughtiness had the opposite effect, though. Her ability to quarrel with Noah suggested either she was brave, or the heated dislike was mutual. Predetermined hate was a fine motive to ensure human diplomacy failed. However, the Nivok government had more to gain from trade than most other species, but the Terrans would be creating more ships than anyone in their rush to fortify their fleet. A lucrative defense contract could keep them sated for years. War was profitable for manufacturing powers. I think Tosser dislikes Lolo more than you, I snorted. The Navok Imperium are using you for economic benefits if you hadn't already figured that out. They don't accomplish anything from getting us all stranded in space. Noah scratched his chin.
But what if they did get something? What if someone like the Krokotl paid them off?
While the Nivoks could be bribed, their price would be steep enough that you could buy a whole colony instead. If I were an outside actor, I'd do it myself, or find a cheaper entity to do my bidding.
It doesn't have to be their government, Tava. It could be a rogue actor, a single person who was swayed and broke with official policy. We don't have to assign blame to an entire species.
Sure, but I think you just wanted to be the Nivoks, so then you can gag their diplomat.
That is a baseless accusation.
Right. I'm just going to move on. That just leaves the Civ kit and the Yoto. It would be simpler to make a determination about actually if we had gotten more than a sentence out of her this whole trip. She displayed more skittishness than the rest of us combined. What if that extreme terror stemmed from concerns of the predator catching her treachery? That, or her pre-existing fear had driven her to act against humanity. However, her open cowardice didn't match with the profile of a martyr or fanatic. I'd expected a little more hatred and approach from such an enemy after witnessing the sadistic behavior of Sutherland. Though it was a long shot, it would satisfy me if the humans captured that officer during their war. I wouldn't blame the UN for executing the Bijid on the spot. If Sutherland somehow survived, I'd want him tried in our court for throwing a wounded Van Lille in a filthy cage with a predator. Not that Marcel was ever going to eat Sonic, but that was the captain's intent. That's attempted murder. Noah tilted his head.
Right now, the only thing the ship kids are guilty of is a poor choice of personnel.
But that's a bit harsh. Everyone cooks with things differently. I pinned my ears against my head, recalling how disastrous first contact was. My diplomatic advisor passed out at your initial smile, but now he loves humans. Actually might warm up to you too.
Actually,
That's her name.
gotcha. Now, on to the Yoto.
I sensed the marsupial was Noah's favourite. That said, having species on board, uplifts had the most to gain from a ploy. Outfoxing a predator was the ultimate display of intellect. It would be the swiftest way to silence any primitive jams. This sabotage could be a calculated risk to garner respect from some Federation peers. Come to think of it, Lalo was the one who blurted out that the current shaft was the culprit. The fact that it was just as he said was an oddity of itself. That he hadn't wavered while being discredited and badgered by his colleagues was even stranger. Either the Otto had familiarized himself with mechanical noise to impress the human, or he had known about the pipe's effectiveness prior. And as a lord is pretty incriminating. I'm surprised I didn't catch on to that sooner. The puzzling bit was why Lalo would offer that information if he was responsible. Someone who was setting up a drive explosion shouldn't want that problem rectified before it paid dividends. The uplift might have known that a diagnostic would reveal the issue and decided to cut his losses. He could always move on to plan B. My tail drooped between my legs. How did the Otto know what the issue was immediately?
Well, just because he's an uplift doesn't mean he's an idiot.
I didn't say that, Noah. Every other passenger, including myself and you, had no idea. We've been on ships our whole adult lives.
It could be a lucky guess. Maybe Lalo studied to be a mechanic. We haven't talked about our personal aspirations.
Even then, there wasn't a trace of doubt. He stated it as fact, not preceded by an "I think" clause. It was like he knew he was right. The predator was quiet, and I sensed him replaying the exact words in his head. Noah's disappointment was obvious. Protecting the Otto was the most passion I'd seen from the ambassador since his desperate plea on the Federation floor. Humanity would love to take the fledgling species into their wing and explore the galaxy together. My friend cursed and slammed his fist into a wall. The human bent over at once, clutching that hand to his stomach. His binocular eyes were narrowed to slits while his teeth were on full display. His uncontrolled breathing was animalistic, punctuated by furious grunts. Was the Terran still in control during this fit of predatory rage? My instinct shadowed my consciousness for the first time in a while. I had never seen sweet Noah like this. It took all of my willpower to step forward and place a shaking paw on his arm. "You're hurting yourself more than the war," I shrieked. "He doesn't feel pain."
I know that.
His lips twitched as he pressed his injured hand.
But fuck. I don't want it to be Lalo. The Yoto are a newer species who don't have historic prejudices against us.
We don't know it's him. But let's not overreact.
But you are right. It doesn't make sense how he knew with such confidence from that one sound. Why is the whole galaxy so unfair? Everyone is so fucking hateful.
Silence was my answer, as much as I wanted to offer soothing words. I didn't know how to handle an angry human, or at what point they presented a threat to those around them. It was possible that my intended response would exacerbate the problem. Trusting Noah to calm down on his own might be best. I took a deep breath and turned my back to the furious human. It felt wrong to leave myself unguarded, at least while he was in attack mode. Forcing my eyes open, I searched through a mini-fridge. There was no ice, but hopefully a cold water pouch would suffice. The burning in my chest eased once I stood upright, and the predator was back in my vision. My claws wrapped around Noah's wrist, throwing me into his racing pulse. The ambassador allowed me to move the aching hand, and it slackened my grip. I gently pressed the water container to his knuckles. At least that would ease any physical pain.
Thanks, Tara. I saw it falling up in your face.
The human's dilated eyes went wide for a moment before he looked away.
And I have your support, don't I?
"Always," I whispered.
Good. Now let's get back to the others before Kupo barges in here asking a million questions. Johnson's going to be a while.
We're not going to detain Lambo, or at least interrogate him.
If I tie up the auto now, how are the others going to react? My explanation won't matter. This needs to be handled quietly. It's better to act somewhere that we're in complete control.
Fair point. I could pull him off to the side when we land on Venlo Prime. The Predator offered his uninjured hand, and I accepted it with an eye roll. Mischief played in these brown irises as his fingers intertwined with my clothes. One nail took the fur right into my paw pad, which caused me to yank my limb back. A hint of a smirk tugged at his face as the affectionate moment of solidarity was ruined. I pointed towards the control room exit. Start walking, or I'm going to start calling you Predator Noah too. His eyebrows shot up.
You wouldn't.
Oh, I would. Right in front of your dear friend, Tosser. Test me.
Fine. I'm going now.
Noah's strides were poised and confident, a far cry from the raving beast I saw minutes ago. I followed him into the cabin, and our return caused the guests to break off their discussions. Actually, he had been speaking with Kupo, but she skidded away at the human's return. She couldn't keep doing this for the entirety of her visit. There were going to be hundreds of UN personnel on site when we docked.
Welcome back, Ambassador Noah.
Nolo yipped.
Thanks. You were right about the coolant shaft.
The Predator's tone was light with false cordiality, and he settled across from the Marsupio.
Quite clever deduction. We'll be back up and running within the next few hours, I hope.
The uplift flicked his ears in acknowledgement. Under the human's watchful eye, I trusted that your tone couldn't pull off any shenanigans. We just needed to maintain a facade of normalcy for a little longer, before we could press our suspect on his involvement. Part of me hoped that our theory was wild speculation, that it could be disproved for Noah's sake. After our lengthy ordeal, both of us were beset by paranoia. I hoped this investigation wouldn't dampen the terrible reception to their new friends. If nothing else panned out, the Ceruleans looked like they might be better neighbours than us. This could still be a positive endeavour overall that would lend humanity a diplomatic foothold within the galaxy. We didn't have to let one rotten fruit spoil the barrel.
Memory transcription subject. Captain Sutherland, Federation Fleet Command. Date, standardized human time, October 6th, 2136. There were no signs of life or civilization nearby. The cinders of a blaze rested off to my side. An orange glow clinging to the black dust. A charred Khajiit corpse was draped over the ashes, with the spaces between its skeleton hauled out. It was as though some predator had cleaned the flesh off its carcass. How had I gotten here? My hind legs were tied to a pole behind me, while my forepaws were fastened to one ahead of me. Warmth brushed against my stomach, and my attention was drawn to its source below. A quick glance revealed the peat of hungry flames on sandy earth, stoked by a wooden heap. Fuck, I'm next. Someone is trying to eat me alive, giving warm blood a whole new meaning. What if this is the answer? Every instinct encouraged me to scream, but my voice had stopped working. It felt like swimming through cement. Motions lagged seconds behind my brain signals. My claws tried to move, either to cut through the ropes or thrash about. But as my vision landed upon the curved appendages, they began to peel off my paws. Growling echoed behind me, and a bipedal shape moved within a mass of shadows. It was more rounded and graceful than any Arxer. At first, all I could see of it was the reflection of flame in its pupils. Given that its hideous gaze made it light directly toward me, I knew those were predator eyes. Panic constricted my throat, and the thin vinegar of logic dissipated. The creature stepped out of the shadows, bearing its
Thanks for stopping by. I'm just working on a couple of these guys tonight because I need to work on something rather than nothing. These are little sticks and they go in your flower pots so your plants have like limbs and eyeballs and all the fun things. I need to drill these holes a bit bigger though.
My support began to descend toward the fire. Recognition flashed through my mind, picking out the green markings on his arm. It was that UN guard, Carlos. I tried to elevate my torso, but I was sinking lower by the second. Stop! Please! Words finally tumbled from my throat, a stream of panicked whimpers. Carlos! Why are you doing this? Humans! You don't want to do this. Carlos!
Sutherland, I'm not doing anything.
The fellow predator's voice replied, though I never saw his lips move.
Wake up.
An invisible touch jostled my shoulders, and I jolted upright in a cramped bunk. My heart was racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Panic made it impossible to think straight. I smacked my claws in a wide arc, aiming for the bloody shape in my periphery. My gravity curse reverberating through the air. The human sprang back with lightning-quick reflexes. Carlos raised his hands in front of it, inching toward the door. The primate's eyes fitted to his holster, which sat on his hip. I blinked in confusion, realizing I was back on a Terran military ship. My claws were still in one piece, and nobody had taken a bite out of me while I was sleeping. It was a nightmare. Probably the result of my brain trying to process my attitude shift toward humans. My subconscious was clinging to the notion that these predators were twisted and rapacious. The fire thing might have come from Terran soldiers toasting s'mores in the cafeteria last night. I closed my eyes and attempted to steady my breathing. Sorry, bad dream, I sighed. The human narrowed his eyes.
I can tell. You said my name. What was I doing?
You were roasting me over a fire and laughing while I burned alive.
That's absurd. Someone hired here to babysit you, not to host a bonfire.
I struggled to my feet, using the bed frame for support. The predators had brought me on board as a tactical advisor for their mission to liberate the Khajiit cradle. The UN crew on the bridge gave the distinct impression that they resented my presence. Several officers shot me nasty looks when I was introduced. Captain Monaghan, who was the ship's commander, warned her men not to take justice into their own hands.
I know many of you have strong feelings on Sutherland, but he's a valuable asset against the enemy.
She had barked.
He knows their weak points, their tactics, and the terrain we're heading into. If anyone lays a finger on him, and it gets back to me, I will have you shit-canned so fast your head will spin.
That made it quite evident to me that my crimes had been broadcasted across Earth. Carlos had done his best to keep me isolated from the human personnel, while Samantha told me to shrug off any taunts by soldiers in passing. I had made a few attempts to engage in personal conversation with my guards. They seemed to make a point of pulling out their phones and ignoring my questions while I tried. I was just curious about what a Terran's life was like, but it was obvious they wanted to shut down any semblance of friendship. It wouldn't surprise me if chatting with a criminal would put them at odds with their associates. The last thing I wanted was to disrupt the group cohesion prior to battle. My commentary needed to be strictly professional and stick to the grays. I apologize that my dream was about you, and for my subsequent reaction, I muttered. I will try not to sleep for a while. Carlos blinked.
You don't have to not sleep, Sutherland.
Well, I'm sorry for waking you up.
You didn't. I was about to rouse you to go to the bridge anyways. Captain wants everyone at their stations. We're about to walk within detection range of your system.
I scampered toward the exit at those words, not wanting to miss a chance at drawing arcs of blood. Carlos's lips curved up slightly with a snarl on his face. He looked ravenous. He escorted me out the door, whisking me down a dimly lit corridor. Dozens of unfamiliar predators were padding toward their assignments without a lick of fear before the looming battle. Many of their faces looked hardened and intimidating. Thunderous chatter carried through the hallway as we approached a bend in the path. We jogged down a small staircase to our right, which deposited us into the bridge. Captain Monaghan was seated in a central chair, struggling it toward the viewport. I recognized Samantha among a group of soldiers, comparing sensor data with projections. There was no stone left unturned, and no post left unmanned. Humans were built for this. They adjusted to the medium of space warfare with unnatural speed. They were the only people I had ever seen bend in my excitement and draw arcs of blood. Fear pulsed through my veins, but this time it was mixed with reverent awe.
All plasma weapons charged, Mom. Targeting systems on standby.
A voice growled at their weapon station. Monaghan nodded.
Excellent. Sensors, report.
230 confirmed hostiles on tracking.
Came a reply from the respective cluster.
No signs of active combat or any remaining UN or Khajiit friendlies. The Greys still appear to be engaged in a bombing campaign.
Any arcs of vessels keeping watch? If we see them, they see us.
About 40 ships scattered about the inner perimeter. I've sent a trajectory course to navigations that'll direct us through their weakest link.
Good. The entire UN fleet made the jump safely. They'll divert a few ships to covering our sinks while we blitz hellfire on those bastards.
The bridge communication was so calm and professional, like it was down to a science. There was no question in orders or emotions mixed into their exchange. Judging by the simulations I saw at my initial briefing, the Terran player was to concentrate fire on the older ARCS models. Then, they were going to use their swifter ships as decoys, drawing the staunchest defenders out of position. Carlos ushered me to a chair at the weapons station within the captain's earshot. Our vessel dropped out of warp before we could be stunned by any anti-FTL weapons. Dozens of allies shimmied into position around us, cruising at various angles and headings. A golden gas giant rested to one side, and its gravitational field might cause disruption to the enemy's readings. A sensor analyst piped up again.
Mom, several Archer patrols are trying to pinch us on the rear flank. Closing fast.
All according to the plan. Continue ahead.
My peoples focused on the space behind us where several Terran ships bounced off on intercept courses. The Germans attempted to nail them with long-range missiles, but the clever monkeys deployed interceptors as countershot. A stream of plasma spouted from the human trail guns, bright and dazzling. Impressive as it looked, the efficiency was doubtful when an enemy wasn't in visual range. Even predators can't line anything up from that distance. Are they just trying to make the answer flinch? That skirmish faded into the backdrop, becoming no more than dots in my sensor over them. Our trajectory was a straight shot to my homeworld, that meant facing the vessels bombarding it. I believed that the humans would greet the answer with a ferocity they'd never seen before. The bristling of my spines intensified as I recalled the videos of the Greys snatching Khajiits off the streets. The Terran and Khajiit ships that engaged the enemy were vanquished by now, succumbing to an overwhelming force. Returning with reinforcements was our final hope. But what could we save of our society? All of our landmarks and cities had been pummeled into oblivion. My thoughts strayed to the UN soldiers on the surface, who fought tooth and nail for our civilians. The ones who missed their extraction were fucked, for lack of a better word. I wondered if a handful of humans had gotten to a bunker, were trying to wait out the storm. Would Khajiit even allow a Vidi to hunker down in their shelter?
They definitely see us.
The census technician hissed.
52 ships and counting, breaking off from the bombing formation, all on an intercept heading toward the fleet.
A navigations officer looked to the captain.
Shall we all follow a course?
Captain Monahan scowled.
Negative. All stations prepare to engage.
The viewport magnified a small blip, and an angular behemoth appeared on screen. Its design catered to packing as many explosives on board as possible. I wished I could be more useful than a spectator parked at the weapons station. The humans around me weren't taking my advice as I had hoped, but I worried that piping up might be taken as criticism. The officers around me were lining up a plasma beam with the hostiles' nose using AI assistance. While structural damage would be a plus, it wasn't the crippling knockout they were seeking. The precious time we spent below them could give the Arctic time to pelt us with missiles. One human held a closed finger over the firing trigger and waited for the go-ahead. You're targeting the wrong spot. The words slipped out of my mouth and the few irritated gazes landed on me. I didn't know how anyone could get used to their paralyzing stares. You could do more damage elsewhere.
Sit down and shut up.
A primate to my right sneered, wrinkling his nose. I believe I overheard a cohort call him Oliver.
You're fucking lucky we don't use you as bait.
Captain Monahan raised a hand.
That's enough. Speak up, Sutherland. You're here to offer insight.
You're trying to knock out propulsion or ventilation, like your briefing said. Which, your intelligence is right. That's the play for most ships. But the East is a heavy bomber.
And?
Impressed. It's bursting to the seams with explosives. You hit it anywhere in its belly, and it'll go up in flames. Much cleaner.
How do we know he's not trying to trip us up? Get us killed?
The distant Oliver shouted. My nostrils flared with indignation. I would never help the answer. It can't be that hard to believe that I want those fuckwits to fry. The captain drummed her fingers on an armrest, reminding me of my behavior with claws. Monahan was debating whether to trust me with the lives of their crew, even if my counsel was a good idea on paper. With the Greys coming in hot, there were only seconds to reach a decision. I was available to her, someone who until days ago cheered if this entire ship was terminated. Now I see humans as people, or at least I'm trying to. But I wouldn't believe that would be in their position.
Lower our heading and fire a shot as quick as possible. Target the center of its underside.
She growled.
Sutherland, if you're wrong about this, I'm going to throw you in a deep dark hole for a long fucking time.
A fallen sensation permeated the artificial gravity as the warship rapidly altered its course. The weapons station heeded the orders despite any crewmate's extraneous options. They selected the approximate coordinates and dispatched a plasma beam in quick succession. The Archer ship's approach carried it within weapons range, and it launched a slew of missiles toward us. The human's power was committed to weapons, not shields. We didn't have enough time to raise them and stabilize our defenses. The Terrans figured sharply to one side, and I prayed the projectiles would avoid tipping us. The energy from our railgun closed the distance with formidable speed, sizzling across the sky. Our plasma volley arrived before the Arc's munitions, punching into the missile bay. Explosions rocked its insides and set off a chain reaction that culminated with the drive. Premature cheers came from the humans as our opponent was reduced to a sea of shrapnel. While I was satisfied with my own knowledge, the Grey's destruction didn't stop the inbound explosives. Our hull creaked from the strain of our evasive maneuver. The missile indicators practically overlapped with our ship. My heart pounded in my ribcage. One by one, the flashing dots slipped past us, avoiding contact with the extensive vessel. It was only then that I allowed myself to celebrate our first triumph. Standing on a bridge with these predators felt good for some strange reason.
Nice call, Sutherland.
Captain Monahan bared her teeth, which made me shudder.
We'll make a note of that ship class. Thanks for the heads up.
Don't mention it. Like I said, I want those monstrosities dead.
All of them dead is the plan.
Those words were music to my ears. Was it too much to hope for my planet, my galaxy, to be cleansed of merciless filth? The Arxer deserved to have their own tactics lobbed against them. There wasn't enough suffering in the world for our nemesis, but I would settle for a long list of casualties. The human vessel ploughed ahead, continuing to make headway toward the Veggie cradle. Scoring a victory today would be the kind of morale boost that Earth needed, and for the first time in a while, I thought the Federation might have a chance in the war. We had our own predators now.
We've come a long way since Morse code. Introducing the next big change with 5G subscription phone plans from Public Mobile. Different is calling.
Memory transcription subject. Captain Sutherland, Federation Fleet Command. Date, standardized human time, October 6, 2136. The way that humans maneuvered through space was like a bird of prey, swooping down on its intended target. It was a graceful and emotionless flight as I watched the blues and tans of my planet come into focus. Those in the human fleet who shrugged off their sails, fell into position, began to coordinate their next targets. Meanwhile, the dogged Arxer were forming routes across the globe. They had no intent of relinquishing their position to a few primitives. Every sort of ammunition imaginable was ready to be lobbed at the first UN ship to stray too close. The Terrans weren't foolish enough to approach the reptilians directly. Instead, charting their course off to one side, our nimble ships then looked sharply back toward the fray with surprising maneuverability. I'm surprised the Terrans spec'd into speed. It's clear they tweaked whatever MLO building blocks they got their hands on. The furthest predators at our weapon station were growling over which enemy to take on. An indicator blinked red on my data feed as the humans singled out the weakest link. I squinted at the viewport, studying their selection. The enemy ship's exterior had lost its shine, and its armor didn't look as thorough as its companions.
Deploy missiles on target. Follow it up with everything our railguns got.
Captain Monahan's voice pierced the air, booming and authoritative.
Divert all power to shields as soon as we get a shot off.
Carlos tapped me on the shoulder.
Hold on. We're moving in for a rough ride. Let's hope our new developments will bring the problem paid off.
The gunner was our intended target, which seemed to be tracking us as well. The spread piloted back at our exterior, though they did little more than superficial damage. Terran ship design diverged slightly from the Federation, which meant the rays had removed our position. The primates held much more intelligence about the Arxer than the other way around. Around us, UN ships were careening into the fray with guns blazing. Rockets of fire lit into space in our periphery. I couldn't tell who was suffering more losses in this visual confrontation. The clash of two species of equal ferocity could only mean carnage. The vomit of the cradle grounds were halted at least, as every ship was drawn away to arrest the vicious humans. The fact that a large-scale conflict with apex predators is even worse is a damn miracle. It's easy to forget the Earthlings developed FDL a few months ago, and used. Imagine how indomitable they could be, given a few hundred years of practice. A scary thought. Amidst my musings, our spacecraft pelted into one with the flurry of missiles. The non-point defences took out most of our firepower, with a handful detonated against the Arx's armour. The rival ship struggled to regain its bearings, and was unable to return fire with its own munitions. While dazed and possibly with navigational troubles, its defences had shrugged off our initial assault. The dilapidated Arxer vessel peeled back toward one of its compatriots seeking backup. I could feel the roar of our engine as we gave chase at full speed. The technicians at the weapon station were racing to get the shot off. Obliterating the grays with plasma would be a stylish finish. The enemy sensed that they were about to be nailed by the railgun and yanked their nose skyward. The humans failed to compensate for the change of course, and our plasma stream missed the mark by a wide margin. The reptilians were emboldened after skirting our heavy blow. They knew we would have to reload. Worse, they succeeded in drawing Apollo's attention. This late joiner was a newer Arxer model.
Raise shields.
The Terran Captain Van.
Switch over to kinetics. Full speed toward the UNS Lovecraft.
Our flight took on an erratic path as the engines were pushed to their limit. The state-of-the-art fresh arms and armor had no trouble keeping pace with us, even at our maximum speed. This was back to what they were used to, chasing an enemy that knew they were beaten. The human predators were on their heels, like everyone else. The Terrans sent off bursts of kinetic bullets, despite knowing full well that the great shields would absorb their punch. Right now, we needed to buy time to find our own battle. It couldn't hurt to throw everything in our arsenal up there. My sensors told me the fourth Arxer ships had its target locked, and that couldn't be a good omen. On screen, the Allied UNS Luftwaffe moseyed toward us. The flashy blue crest on its hull demonstrated it wasn't designed for camouflage. The rectangular ship, which seemed to boast retractable doors, suggested it could be transported smaller craft. This human ship was an unseemly clump of mass and guns. A layer of paint didn't hide that it was a predatory prowler. Some of their ships had definitely modified their guns. The census technician glanced at the captain.
The computer suggests the second after hostiles, real guns are charged. Evasive maneuvers are infeasible.
Understood.
Monahan replied, a voice icy calm.
Brace for impact.
My claws sank into the armrest and nerves bubbled in my chest. Why were the humans not showing more alarm? An imminent threat on their lives should at least rattle anyone with a trace of sanity. I knew that these predators would feel fear from Marcel's responses to me. Plasmid sniffed the waters, hungry to devour our metallic shell. The white-hot flirt pointed to an impact. At least that's where the sensors registered the impact. My arm was nearly jerked out of its socket as the force reached the bridge. The overhead light snapped off from an electrical short circuit, and baseboard lighting provided a eerie glow. The predators that were standing found themselves on the ground. A few of the unfortunate crewmates face-planted and hobbled off to mend their injuries. Alarms warned that structural integrity was compromised. Obviously, it was venting from the rear sector, which was required with theirs, if we survived this battle.
UNS Rocinante, you all right?
A throaty voice crackled from the speakers. Captain Monahan surveyed the bridge.
Still in one piece, Lovecraft. We could use a hand.
You heard the lady.
Gimli replied.
Let's hurry, boys.
Our ship staggered down to avoid getting in their line of sight. The Lovecraft powered up twin railguns in its forward hull, undeterred by the energy demands. I doubted they could command the same power as the Soul Army. Humans must believe working the enemy in two places offset that drawback. The newfangled Archer wisened up to the peril of its fate. By the time it slowed its pace, Terran plasma was already in transit. Two simultaneous beams blazed scars into a flank, connecting several key systems. The drive connected out altogether, which meant our core was out of commission. UN pilots steered the Lovecraft toward the original Archer, deploying missiles and target. The damage was washing our side, was restored within the bridge. Several humans' eyes glowed with anticipation of the kill. These predators smelled blood. While the huge vessel was preoccupied with the our parcel, the weapons station coaxed our ship's railgun back online. A plasma beam barreled toward its target with perfect aim, magnetically accelerated by my deepest partners. My instincts told me that the enemy was toast before it arrived. Some intuition sensed that the momentum had shifted in our favor, and Terrans didn't need a second chance to capitalize. Fire seared atop the enemy's armor, and its integrity collapsed. The scorched metal split open from side to side, leaving the ship powerless and immobilized. With its weapon systems knocked offline, the Archer couldn't deploy interceptors against the Lovecraft's missile barrel. The vessel exploded in an orange burst, churned into metallic residue and fragments.
That'll leave a mark.
Came the gloating comment from our allies.
We'll have to respond to another distress signal. Smith sailing.
Captain Monahan offered her thanks over the comms before reviewing the damage to our vessel. It wasn't quite as extensive as I would expect. There were some nasty wounds across the ship's body, but all major systems were functional. As long as there were no issues furling power to weapons and propulsion, we were still in the fight. The human officer straightened.
Navs, bring us closer to the pallet. Our structural integrity is weakened, so we're going to play a supporting role.
I lowered my head for a moment, trying to cleanse some of the fear chemicals from my system. The exhilaration of killing the Archer was lost beneath raw sensation. The burning in my chest was making it difficult to breathe, as if I was walking the line with cardiac arrest. While the predators breathing down my neck were dangerous and untamed, I was thankful they were at the helm. A human split-second decision-making under duress was clearly better than mine. Our brush with death struck more fear into my heart than any of the surrounding crewmates. And you're considered exceptionally brave at home, I mused. I suppose keeping it together enough to function is what we consider stoicism. Our vessel curved the winding path through the battlefield, avoiding a solo confrontation with any London Archer. It was sobering to see that several dozen UN indicators had flickered out on our sensors. Those measurements were erroneous, or that each fallen had at least taken two enemies with them. The good news was that we had numbers. That advantage was minimized in clashes involving the Federation, and fleets often fell into disarray at the first sign of incoming fire. A bold charge like the Terrans were attempting was nigh unthinkable. We lost the psychological wall before we ever thought of the physical one.
Sensors, pick out an enemy that's showing signs of critical damage.
Captain Monahan nodded at the viewport, a thoughtful look on her face.
We don't want anyone to limp off and nurse their wounds.
On it!
The technician answered. My eyes turned toward the cradle, and homesickness burgeoned in my chest. Beneath the tranquil blue exterior, I knew the ground was ashen and lifeless. The Archer ships gliding above the atmosphere menaced the skies. They were locked in combat with the humans now, but if our mission failed, they would return to their bombing in a heartbeat. A dark rectangular object which burned away from the planet's glow caught my attention. There was only one Archer ship that would flee from the heart of battle. My heart sank into my stomach, and I realized which target deterrents had to choose. It was a small mercy for the souls on board. I left my oars, ignoring the bile rising in my throat. Terminate Darkstar level N9241 on your sensors. Please. It's on an ascent course departing from the cradle.
Hold on. Why that particular ship?
Manana. I met her stealing gaze. It's a cattle ship. It cannot be allowed to leave the system. Put those Khajiits out of their misery. I beg you.
There are innocent hostages on that ship. We don't kill civilians whenever it's possible to avoid it.
But there are fates much worse than death. Humans, please tell me you're logical enough to understand. There are children on there. I know you care for them. You're saving hundreds of people from an existence you cannot imagine. The captain stood his own readout and waved the first officer over for a brief conference. I didn't know what she was discussing with him. It was an easy decision to me. Their hushed words gave the Greys time to get away. Maybe these predators did have stunted morality if they couldn't discern the lesser evil here. Forget the letter of the law. Monahan's head snapped up.
Sodlin, how many Archers do you expect are on board?
I don't know. It's not like anyone's ever been on one of their ships, I growled. But, their landing parties are usually around 2 to 3 dozen per group.
That seems manageable. I'll put together a breach team and we'll send a shuttle to board them. All we need is to lock up propulsion so they're dead in the waters.
The proposition was so simple, yet it almost moved me to tears. I couldn't believe these savage beasts would attempt a rescue mission in battle for the Great Peril to their own personnel. How the UN captain reacted, it was her first instinct. The thought hadn't crossed my mind to think of those Khajiits as anything but gone. As the officers began assembling the flight crew, I realized there was a foundation of genuine trust in them. The idea that humanity would want the sapient livestock for themselves had barely crossed my mind. I'd begun to believe that this conquering species would help us, just as they had with our refugees. Captain Monahan barked orders to the bridge personnel and began scrounging what energy they could for the plasma railgun. There was no time to await backup, and most UN ships were preoccupied regardless. The comm station notified all nearby friendlies of the cattle vessel, so that it wouldn't be shot down while we were trying to seize it. If reinforcements arrived down the line, that would be a bonus.
Suddenly, I'm going to offer my name for the boarding party.
Hatred radiated from Carlos as his gaze scorched toward the viewport.
I'm a foot soldier after all. I'd like a crack at those grey freaks.
The humans' pent-up rage seeped out as they contemplated the terrorizing foe. Hunger trickled into their stances and snarls. I could almost feel its burning on through their veins. Wild, untapped anger spurred the primates to action and demanded retribution for the cruelty they perceived. They're channeling their pituitary energy, but they're still in control of themselves somehow, even in hunting mode. They can't imagine the intrusive thoughts it puts in their heads. Our ship raced toward the Archer's transport, gaining on the clunky object. Cattle vessels did have external weapons, but they were more limited than their warship counterparts. However, their internal armory wouldn't be deficient by any metric. They were equipped with the tools to eviscerate a city. This wasn't going to be an easy task for my human allies. You're also noble and fearsome, I growled. Captain Monahan, let me accompany your team. Please. The captain raised her eyebrows.
Why would I do that? So the only Federation asset we have can be KIA.
KIA?
Killed in action.
Oh, I won't get in your way. If you manage to free those Khajiits, you'll need me to stop a stampede. They're not going to be in their right minds. You'll see why. Monahan's rosy lips twitched and I could sense the unspoken question in her tone. After witnessing our lack of push during their initial landing, she wasn't sure I'd be in my right mind. It was a valid question, honestly. Charging through an enclosed space, surrounded by accident, gunfighting would break most Khajiits. The mere sight of binocular eyes pumped red through my veins and made my spines bristle. It was a constant effort to push them aside, that I could power through it in most cases. My fury toward the Greys had to be enough to override it. I tried to show my determination through teeth baring, raising my claws in a threatening manner. She sighed, rubbing her forehead.
Ah, very well. Don't fuck this up. And, for the love of God, don't die.
Understood, Mom, I answered. Just, if the mission fails, please take out that ship. No matter who's on board.
They won't make it out of this system. Not on my watch.
The wave of vivid excitement almost swept me off my feet as I eyed the cattle vessel in the viewport. Few people met an answer face to face and lived to tell the tale. Insertion into an enemy ship could end in complete catastrophe. Such a feat would be unheard of. My predatory companions either didn't realize or didn't care how risky their stunt was. The eager weapons station pinpointed their target, plasma armed across the void. My nostrils twitched with anticipation. I was raring to go, same as the predators. This role was a pitiful attempt to atone for my crimes, but at least I felt certain I was on the right side. Any way I could assist the humans, I was going to chip in. Memory transcription subject, Captain Soblin, Federation Fleet Command. Date, standardized human time, October 6th, 2136. The bulletproof vest afforded to me by the predators was snug around my spines, but nearly fell off my shoulders. The shape was not designed for the return of Pujid species. The slender curvature of the human spine was a polar opposite, full of ability. I knew the armor might save my life, but I wish I waited longer to don it. My bristles were being compressed at irritating angles. The nearest soldiers seemed annoyed by my inability to sit still. The humans were sandwiched together in the shuttle, brushing shoulders with each other. I was going to be at the end, so I moved toward the wall. Samantha traded places with Carlos halfway through the ride. She bore an obvious disdain for me, but the male guard had enough of my fidgeting. Many of the general soldiers curled their lips in contempt as well. I wasn't winning any popularity contests with these predators. I was grateful we were only a minute out from the cattle vessel. Did we succeed at paralyzing the archer transport? I asked the female chaperone. Her eyelashes fluttered in annoyance.
Yes. We are not listening to the damn announcements.
Relax, Sam. It was an innocent question.
Carlos sighed.
I'm sure he just zoned out. You feel sorry for the racist war criminal?
A soldier called out. I saw a few humans nod their heads in agreement, which caused me to lower my gaze. There wouldn't be many tears shed by anyone other than the UN brass if the Archer gunned me down today. Not that I blamed them. An honourable death wasn't the worst thing I could think of. Dying scared me more than death. I wish I had a weapon so I could actually help. I don't want to stay back and let them do all the fighting. Well, that's great news, I said, ignoring the jab. Can I have a gun? No! A chorus of voices answered in unison. I waved my paws dismissively. Worth a shot. The shuttle lurched beneath my paws, and my vest pressed harder against my spines. There was going to be some light bruising tomorrow if I lived past this battle. Our craft latched onto an outer wing, attaching itself to the immobilized transport. We inched forward so that our airlock stood across from theirs. A vac-suited predator slipped into our emergency airlock, and I strained to see his movements through the window. The Terrorman filled the walkway on our side, then floated across to the Archer vessel with a gentle push. All that tied him to us was a thin rope on his waist. We tested the red lever with a feeble hand and confirmed that it wasn't locked. The human nodded to himself and used some sort of suction technology to adhere the tunnel to the enemy ship. His feet clicked onto the ground as the artificial gravity initiated. Once the corridor was sealed from the vacuum, he raised his thumb to the rest of us. I didn't understand the signal, but the others took it as a go-ahead. The UN soldiers trundled out of the ship, wielding massive rifles. While the predators possessed few natural gifts, they were saddled with a truckload of gear. Their warriors were clad head to toe in black armor, including a hard shell atop their heads. Once they shoved reflective goggles over their eyes, humans looked like homogeneous impassive machines.
Stick behind us, Soblin.
Samantha rose to her feet, falling into the rear of the pack.
We can't leave the hay to get captured. Take cover and stay out of the way till you're needed.
Silence fell over our entourage as the primate crossed the cattle ship's threshold. I couldn't help but notice the human's slinking posture, as though they were stalking prey in a shaded forest. They were couched to a fraction of their normal height, with steps that were furtive and calculated. Their guns swiveled in every direction, searching for a target to pounce on. With a hint of reluctance, my paws followed them down the tunnel. There were some short bursts of gunfire as they pumped the fuel from head arms full of lead. I suppressed a chuckle, knowing it would make me seem deranged. The enemy would raise the alarm now, but I relished that we got the drop on them. My attention switched to the reptilian interior, taking mental note of its facilities. The Federation would kill for intelligence. The atmosphere was musty, but the lighting was rich and plentiful. The hygiene of the enemy ship surprised me as well. It didn't reek of rotten flesh or blood. I guess those savages understood basic disease transmission after all. We followed the entryway a few hundred paces before we reached a bend in the path. The team leader poked his head around the corner and immediately recoiled. A barrage of bullets decimated the wall where his shell cap poked out moments earlier. He ducked back behind cover, hugging his weapon to his chest.
8 or 9 hostiles arming themselves and taking positions.
He hissed.
They're waiting for us.
We have more numbers than that, but the Archer have a clear line of sight. They're going to nail us as soon as we advance. A human rolled a metal canister across the floor, which released a milky plume of smoke. Irritants dispersed through the hallway, and I squinted to see anything. There was no way the Archer could determine our position if I could barely see my clothes in front of me. Shrouded in the haze of silver mist, the Terrans stepped out from behind their refuge. The Archer spread bullets in our direction, hoping to connect with something. These sounds helped the humans key in on their positions, and they spewed their own rounds back in return. Terrans seemed to fare better in low visibility with their remarkable adaptiveness. The silhouetted movement I glimpsed in the mist suggested a few Greers were hit. As the smoke dissipated, the primates sprang toward any makeshift shelter they could find. Carlos pulled me behind a supply cart and popped his gun over the top. Samantha sprawled on the floor beside him. Her hands were steady as she gazed down the scope and fired at an Archer attempting to fall back. I didn't know the Greers could retreat.
I imagine down that main staircase we'll find living quarters, the cattle pens and the bridge.
Samantha growled.
They don't want us to get to anything vital.
The female human stood to get a good look and inched forward to join in the human cluster. My eyes drifted to the Archer she shot, who was bleeding profusely. An enemy bastard was still twitching until another Terran soldier loaded a clip into his head. That was overkill. But hey, I wasn't judging. Samantha caressed her rifle with a gloved hand, waved for Carlos and I to follow. Hesitant as I was to do, the handful of hostile survivors were regrouping with their brethren. The Terrans blinding every combatant called the Archer of Guard. It forced them to make concessions and away backup. The Greys haven't fought a true enemy in a long time, have they? I mused. They haven't been on their back foot for a second in this war. Our weakness has made them complacent. There was no sound from the presumed Archer position, and I guessed they were lying in wait. The UN contingent advanced with caution, creeping toward the stairway. Their boots glided across the metal as light as the patter of rain. Whether they were coached by instinct, training, or generational experience, I did not know. A grating voice rumbled over the PA.
Greetings, fellow hunters. I take it you don't appreciate that we, stole your catch.
Several human predators startled, and their attention shifted overhead. My jaw almost dropped to the floor. The Archer never conversed so eloquently with us. We translated their dialects at first contact, but I couldn't remember them enunciating anything but vulgar threats in my lifetime. It was incredible that they had words for greetings or appreciate.
Were you would have hoped to split the hole if you'd realized our intrusion sooner?
The Archer continued.
You made things much easier for us, and we're not entirely ungrateful. You already led the Khajiits make excellent slaves, judging by your companion.
I bared my teeth, incensed that this monstrosity thought I was a human plaything. While I was a Terran prisoner, that was a far cry from servitude and degradation. There was nothing I had been forced to do. My presence on this mission was voluntary, and my treatment was fairer than I deserved. Carlos nudged me, pointing to a blinking red light on the ceiling. There was a camera tracking all movements, granting the enemy a full view of our advance. He raised only his middle finger, and several of his counterparts copied the gesture. I didn't understand what that meant either, but I guessed it was something hateful.
Go fuck yourselves,
the male guard shouted. Probably that. Note to self.
To be umbrious again. Let's get that aggression out of our systems. Then, after, we should pull our resources to bring the lesser species to the you.
The reptile sounded almost disappointed, as though it would enjoy a test of strength.
Anything else would be wasteful when our interests are aligned. As loaths to the shared needs, there's enough food to go around.
Did those demons just offer to ally with humanity against the Federation? My blood boiled at the thought. It had to be a trap, since everyone knew the Archer were incapable of interspecies cooperation. They couldn't get along with themselves. The Greys were locked in a global bloodbath, which jeopardized their world's survival when we found them. The prospect of the Terrans switching sides was unnerving all the same. The clawless omnivores hadn't been welcomed into the galaxy with open arms. The lack of clarity from our factions meant threats could still reside within the Federation. Would humans view siding with monsters as the only way to save their Earth? Carlos turned down the camera lens with prejudice and answered the question for me. His knuckles were strained against the cloth coverings from being clenched around his rifle. The soldier at the Adance's forefront raised a fist, and our posse shuffled to a halt astride of the staircase. Odds were, the enemy was gathering in the deck underneath us.
fire in the hole.
A human voice declared. A human soldier lobbed a grenade into the open area, and we watched it patter down the incline. The resulting explosion detonated atop any Archer in the vicinity. I heard a gurgling scream as a shotgun hit one of the reptiles in the throat. My infantry allies moved down the first steps and followed it up with another explosive toss. That should be enough to get the enemy back. The primates bounded down the last of the staircase and jammed down their firing triggers. I followed Samantha's movement and tried to keep my head low. Reaching refuge, we had a trash can in what appeared to be a mess hall. There were blood-speckled trays and reading materials left abandoned on the tables. What do you know? Eating sentience is a communal activity, I guess. Marks of gunfire peppered the walls around us and took down several humans. Other terrorists stepped in as soon as they saw a counterpart fell, dragging them to safety. Attempts to stymie the bleeding looked hopeless in many cases, but our efforts were charged with emotion.
Okay. So tomorrow these should be dry. I just need to scratch their eyes clear. Actually, no, maybe I'll leave them and then spray them, then clean them. Anyway, y'all have a good night. Little production is better than none.